This is an information board for the history of Springfield Lyons Bronze Age enclosure. It shows the aerial view before the area was landscaped. You can distinctly see the boundary, and then there's a recreation of what the Springfield Lyons encampment would have looked like. It's a development that's taken place in Chalmer Village. It shows the cursus that you mentioned earlier, the Neolithic cursus, and it also takes us right up to the area we are here today, the Bronze Age enclosure. This is owned by Essex County Council.
So we have Essex County Council owning the land, we have Chelmsford City councillors on your side. Surely you're going to hold on to this, no worries.
Hello, I'm Rose Moore.
Rose, we look like we're standing on the edge of paradise. Where are we in fact?
We're actually on the edge of Chalmer Village Way and Chelmsford Business Park in Chelmsford, Essex.
Why are we here?
We're here to celebrate what really is a unique bit of natural landscape. It's basically a local wilderness.
I can see a pond there with some beautiful yellow irises. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And tell me about the pond to start with.
The pond has been man-made. Although the area here is quite marshy, it's also got natural ponds further up, and that area was developed a few years back into a nursery school. And in order to save the great crested newt population, they put the natural pond here and have sort of sympathetically landscaped this area to keep the great crested newt population sustained.
How exactly did the newts arrive here?
It's my understanding that they're quite capable of moving short distances over marshy areas and migrating to safer areas to breed.
How many do you think are breeding here?
It's difficult to know exactly because they're naturally very reclusive, but I have seen one just behind you in the last couple of days, a very small, I think a juvenile.
Actually, on the way here you picked up rather ominously a skin of some kind. What was that?
I have it in my pocket, and I was stupidly excited to find adder skin. So we have an adder population here, and some have obviously shed skins in readiness for the growth through the summer.
So you would have advised trousers and boots?
Especially for dog walkers to be very careful in undergrowth, because they are known to attack if they're threatened. That's snakes and dogs.
Rose, you've got a mission, haven't you? We're not just here to admire the scenery. What's your mission?
There is a collective vision locally, a small but very committed group of local residents who really want to preserve this hidden gem and to encourage more people to enjoy it. Development is encroaching on all sides here. We've had car dealerships turned down in recent years. There's now a proposal for a very big development which would put a car park directly behind me and undoubtedly upset the balance of this really fantastic ecosystem.
How wide an area are we talking about here? We've got a beautiful row of trees there and a beautiful walk down. How many acres do you think?
It's hard to know. In terms of average size football pitches, I would think 8 or 9 football pitches worth of heath, grassland, scrubland, and this incredible unique Bronze Age area.
Certainly going to be a huge old folks home.
It will be tall, it will be imposing, and it would dominate the skyline. And as I said, the creatures who exist here because of everything else that is directly around them.
Have they built everywhere else on Chelmsford Village that could be built on?
Towards the other end, where we have Sandford Lock, Sandford Mill, and the flat area of riverbed close to the Army and Navy flyover. My understanding is that that's protected, but there's no guarantee that it won't be developed in time.
So this side of that development, this is the last wilderness?
I would say it is.
And when it goes, it's gone, and all we have at Chelmer Village, certainly at this end, is concrete, paving paradise.
Certainly at this end, and this is described as an industrial commercial area. So why would we sacrifice this precious gem in the middle of the area?
Who could save it?
the support of local councillors together with the local community will contribute weight and speaks volumes.
You say there have been other proposals. Why haven't they gone to planning inquiry?
The situation with the land is that there is a protection order on it, which is called an S106. That was established to protect the residential area from the encroaching commercial business developments in the 1980s, and ever since 1984 that has been approved within the local plan going forward into the future.
With a lot of talk about local plans at the moment, what is the local plan for this bit of paradise?
At present it should be preserved. It's allocated as accessible natural green space, and quite right too. It's all of those three things and more.
But you're still extremely worried. You've got the councillors on your side, you've got probably everybody living in the distance here on your side. What's the fear?
Planners are tenacious, developers are tenacious. They will hang in there until policy changes, and pressure can be put on our area in terms of housing needs, and over time local communities, especially people who volunteer, can be worn down, move away and lose heart.
Well, you're not losing heart at the moment, are you?
Certainly not. I think we just heard a woodpecker overhead and a couple of magpies flown past, so there they are.
What other interesting features are there here, Rose?
In the 1980s, when Chelmsford Business Park was being developed, there was an archaeological dig here because of its historic precedence as a Neolithic and a Bronze Age enclosure. It went on to be a Saxon burial ground. So the landscape we see today has been sculpted very much by the archaeologists who worked to excavate some truly fascinating items from lost generations. And the banks and the hills and the little ditches that you see, in the winter especially, demarcate the site of human life centuries ago, thousands of years ago, pre-Bible, pre-Christianity.
Well, let's go and have a look at them then.
This area is part of the original excavations in the 1980s. When viewed from above, before the business park was built, an aerial shot would show what looked ostensibly like dips and geometric shapes in the ground, almost as if a spaceship had landed. It's really fascinating. The archaeologists went deeper, and it's there that they dug down centuries worth and found treasures, and then it was left, as dig sites often are, just to be taken over by nature.
Are we going further back than Boudica?
Yes, we're probably Neolithic times, so the time of Stonehenge and Stone Age. As long as humans have been here, this area has been used for shelter and farming right up to the Victorian era, when it was still being used as dairy farm, and the land gradually gave way to development probably in the middle of last century.
We might not have sarsen stones, but this is Chelmer Village's Stonehenge.
I would say it is, and certainly a Bronze Age heritage site.
Worth fighting for?
Undoubtedly. It's lasted this long. It's never been more important than having accessible green spaces with all of the history to educate and give people some hope for the future of our country, our history.
Too late to save the cursus that occupied a huge swathe of Chelmer Village and is now under probably 20 to 40 homes.
Yes.
A massive cursus, all under brick.
Yes.
What's your plea to the council?
I would implore the council to retain and help the community enhance this area and the adjacent area, to try working with wildlife trusts locally in the Living Landscapes campaign to build the area into something truly a celebration of Chelmer Village. Well, it's still water, it's more of a natural pond, to be honest. There's no flow from a spring as such, but the whole area, you'll notice, is a bit like a golf course in that the grass is very wiry and marshy, and in the winter it's extremely spongy, so the water table here is very high and it's perfect for amphibians. So it's a natural open area, and adjacent to here we have the scrub, which really goes mad in the summer and becomes a forest, but here will always remain open.
So not just a million earthworms, we're talking about hundreds of different animals, life forms, thousands, and birds and rare butterflies. Tell me about that butterfly we saw earlier.
We saw a cinnabar, which is a crimson and red, beautiful butterfly moth, and it feeds on ragwort. The caterpillars feed on ragwort exclusively, and that's all over this site.
How many councillors do you think are going to stand up for you when it's a case of hands up and voting?
They've supported us in the past at Planning Committee over car dealership proposals. The latest proposal has been pending since last spring, so it's been over a year. It's still pending consideration. It's a huge decision for them to take. It will be irreversible for this landscape if development goes ahead. No question.
I understand that the head of planning, the councillor Neil Gulliver, is one of the big guns on your side. What's he done for you?
Councillor Gulliver has been an absolute foundation stone for this area over the years. For many years, I've lived here for 11 years now in Chalmer Village. Before then, Neil was campaigning locally to retain the whole area for public open space, and he's continuing to do that now.
Any other councillors you can name?
We have locally Councillor Alcock, and I am sure that the Liberal Democrat councillors locally, Richard John Lee, who's on Springfield Parish Council, I know that he is fully behind preserving this area and making more of the whole area for families and as a general open space for access.
Effectively, you're building up the troops. Through this video you hope to reach more people. It's a question of just waiting, being prepared.
It is indeed, and it's the waiting that can wear you down, but through the year here, it's ever-changing landscape, and it's truly worth a visit. You'll be convinced, I'm sure. If you're a local resident, come down here, bring your dogs, you can run them off the lead. It's absolutely beautiful.
But don't bring your litter.
Please don't bring your litter. Every time I come, I bring a bag. It's quite a good idea for people to do that generally, to collect things that may have blown across from the business park, but it's as it is. It's a beautiful wilderness.
Is there anything else you'd like to say that I haven't asked you?
I'd encourage people to spend some time here in the early morning and at dusk, because the sky is full of birdsong. You cannot describe the sound. There's a constant hum of the A12 just behind us. When that dies down, it's truly moving. And all of these birds depend on the entire landscape for their sustainability. And to lose that peace and that moment when you can come here away from the built-up human areas is truly unique.